today to you I will be describing about Star Wars Episode 7, that is Star Wars The Force Awakens, which is one of the most interesting Star Wars movie ever. For me, actually, in this I actually see one of my favorite character. He's Ben Solo, meaning Kylo Ren, and there is Chewbacca. So there are certain of my favorite characters. Even it is of sequel trilogy, and the story begins with the First Order, since the Empire was already destroyed in Star Wars Episode 6. But then from the ashes of Empire, there rises the First Order, governed by the Snoke, the Supreme Leader Snoke. And then there is Kylo Ren, one of the most terrifying character of Star Wars. And Kylo Ren was actually initially trained to be a Jedi, but later Kylo Ren himself turns to the dark side of the Force, just like Anakin Skywalker turns to the dark side and becomes Darth Vader. And the fun fact and the interesting fact is that Kylo Ren is no one, but instead Kylo Ren, you may say, is related to somehow Anakin Skywalker, meaning Darth Vader, because Kylo Ren's mother was actually the daughter of Anakin Skywalker, so they are actually related to each other. And Kylo Ren was very strong in raw power, even more than in comparison to Luke Skywalker, who was directly the son of Anakin Skywalker or Darth Vader in the prequels and actually the sequels. What happens? Original trilogy, which is the most interesting of all the trilogies in the Star Wars. So what happens that Kylo Ren was turned to the dark side of the Force, and why did Kylo Ren turn to the dark side of Force was actually described in Star Wars 8th episode, that is The Last Jedi. So we'll discuss about that later. First we are coming back to the Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. So what happens that Luke Skywalker has vanished. Luke Skywalker is just missing, and no one knew where was Luke Skywalker. And the reason is also explained in Star Wars 8th episode, but instead there is a brief introduction given by Han Solo, one of my favorite character in Star Wars, in Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. So what happens? Luke Skywalker is missing, and everyone wants to find out Luke Skywalker. Even the evil, they want to find the Luke Skywalker to kill him, so that there is no Jedi left in the galaxy at that time. And even the good persons, even the resistant wants to find the Luke Skywalker, so that Luke Skywalker, again they make the Luke Skywalker return back and fight the evil and fight against the First Order, of which the main parts were like Supreme Leader Snoke, General Hux, and even Kylo Ren, who was actually Ben Solo. So everyone want to find out Luke Skywalker, but what happens then that the data where Luke Skywalker has gone, the map was put inside a robot, and his name was BB-8. Now what happens that the main head of BB-8 was a man named Poe Dameron, and initially at the beginning of movie at a planet, what happens that Poe Dameron and his robots are present, and there is also one man. So instantly the First Order comes there along with Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren wants to find where is Luke Skywalker, so in order to kill him, because Kylo Ren really hated Luke Skywalker. Yeah, this is strange because Kylo Ren belongs to Luke Skywalker's bloodline, but instead, even in that case, he wants to kill Luke Skywalker. Now the reason is hidden, and that is just revealed in Star Wars Episode 8. So we'll discuss about that later. What happens that Kylo Ren wants to kill Luke Skywalker, so he wants to know on which planet is Luke Skywalker. So he reaches near Poe Dameron, and somehow Poe Dameron initially wants to escape, and he actually near about escapes. But what happens that he sees that suddenly Kylo Ren kills many men there, and they kill too many persons at that planet. So Poe Dameron instantly fires with his blaster on Kylo Ren, and since Kylo Ren was so great in raw power and he was a master of the Force, he was not a Jedi master after all, but yeah, he had really mastered the Force techniques. So he suddenly stops the blast of finally Poe Dameron's blaster. So he also freezes to Poe Dameron, and they catch to Poe Dameron, and Poe Dameron, before he blasts on Kylo Ren, what happens? He sends his droid, his robot droid, whatever you may say, BB-8 on that planet, that go wherever you can. And what happens? But Kylo Ren was really great in Force techniques, so he could easily get out the information from the mind of Poe that where has the droid gone. But since he didn't actually know that where will the droid go, so finally Kylo Ren couldn't. They took to Poe Dameron to the starships and whatever you may say, Star Destroyers, where they actually live. That is the main place where all of the teammates of First Order live. And there Kylo Ren very much tries to get out the information where has the droid gone, but he actually couldn't. And why he couldn't? Because actually this was not because he didn't have ability great enough, but the thing was that Poe Dameron didn't know where has the droid gone. So they try very much to know about where has the droid gone. But at the same time, there was also a clone trooper, a stormtrooper whose name was FN Knight 287. And suddenly he feels that I should not stay in the First Order no longer, because actually this is not the place where I believe I should be really living. Here is matter of killing everyone and ruling, but I really don't want to do it. So he somehow consults Poe Dameron, and that stormtrooper and Poe Dameron make a plan to escape from there and reach to the other planets, and they consult other teammates in the resistance. And finally they were able to. But what happens that their ship, their TIE fighter, crashes on a planet, and when they fall on the planet, then when Finn, whose name was actually FN Knight 287, his short name Poe Dameron called Finn because it was really very large name, so anyone wouldn't be able to pronounce it after all. Then Finn saw that Poe Dameron after the crash was missing, so he thought maybe he's dead. He's somehow located in the TIE fighter that just blasted off into the sun. And what happens that Finn somehow tries to escape, and finally then Finn comes to know that the droid Poe was talking about is actually at this planet, and then is shown the story of Rey. I can't say about the full name because the full name of Rey was revealed in Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. So that's a secret till then. What happens that then Finn meets Rey. Rey was actually a girl. Now what happens that Rey never knew about who were Rey's parents. She never knew, and her parents had already left her when she was very small, smaller than just, she was of 5 or 4 years old. But she never came to know about the reason why her parents had left her, and she always waited for the day that her parents would come back and would save her from all of this, because she would really collect the rubbish and all of that in order to survive. But she never knew what happened to her parents, because her parents were actually killed by the main villain of the entire series of Star Wars, Sheev Palpatine, whose name was actually Darth Sidious. But that was revealed in Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker. So what happens, then suddenly Rey meets BB-8, who was a droid who kept the information about the map of where Luke Skywalker has actually gone. So when she meets BB-8, so first of all BB-8's antenna was somewhat damaged at the wrong position, so she does that well, and finally for a night she was with BB-8, and finally what happens, she says to that droid, to that robot, that you should go the next day, right? The next day in morning, because perhaps at night it will be somewhat dangerous. The next day finally Finn comes there, and Finn thinks that this is the same droid that Poe Dameron was talking about. Then Finn meets Rey, and finally when the other stormtroopers come there, so they finally find that Finn is here, who was a traitor who betrayed the First Order. So the First Order starts attacking on BB-8, Finn and Rey, and they finally escape into a ship, and they fly off the ship out of the outer space, you may say. And then what happens, then suddenly another person enters the spaceship. Now they were hidden, they thought those were First Order stormtroopers, but when they came out, they saw there was Han Solo and his pet, not pet, and there was Chewbacca. So they were fully shocked that we are meeting to Han Solo. And then Han Solo tells that the spaceship that you just escaped from, that is the Millennium Falcon. So they were just fully shocked that we are just standing or sitting, whatever you may say, we are flying in the Millennium Falcon, which is really great name, right? So then what happens, then they think to they as well as make plan with Han Solo that they will go to other rebellions, to the other resistance teammates. So finally what happens, after some time they were actually again tracked by the First Order, but they somehow escape from there and they go near the resistance. And from there Finn tells that I am not actually from resistance, because earlier he lied to everyone, he's from the resistance. But Finn tells that I was a stormtrooper, and he wants to escape from there because the resistance want to fight the First Order Instead, Finn knows First Order in a very nice manner. So Finn knows that they would tear them apart. That's why Finn was just afraid and he somehow escapes from there. And then what happens? Rey somehow feels something mysterious present there. Then Rey just goes downstairs and she sees a kind of treasure kind box. And when she opens the treasure box, no one else was there. But she finds a lightsaber. And as she picks up lightsaber, she had got daydreaming. And it was very strange. It was about chaos and destruction. So finally, Rey was shocked a lot. And then another person comes there. And then she tells to Rey that this is Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. And before Luke Skywalker, Anakin Skywalker was using this lightsaber, who later became known as Darth Vader, the most terrible and most terrifying person in the galaxy, of whom everyone are afraid and everyone knows in the galaxy. So what happened, that she says to Rey that I am not a Jedi, but still I know about the Force and its abilities. This is all around us. This light was always present. It was always, even before the beginning of the universe. I want that you take this lightsaber and fight against evil, fight against First Order. But Rey at first rejects it and she says that I will never touch this lightsaber again. And Rey somehow escapes from there and goes into a forest. And then she finds BB-8 coming after her. Then as it all happens, First Order instantly comes right there, and along with them Kylo Ren, and even Han Solo was present there, and Chewbacca was present there. So there were also other persons, like Finn just escaped, but he was nearby, and they see that what happens as Kylo Ren and all other persons come right there of the First Order, and there are a lot of stormtroopers. They finally arrest to Han Solo and Chewbacca, but Rey and Finn had just escaped in different directions, but BB-8 along with Rey. And then Rey comes to know that they have come to know that BB-8 is right here, so they can finally reach to Luke Skywalker. So Rey says to BB-8, just escape wherever you can, and BB-8 escapes again from there. And Finn comes back to Han Solo and Chewbacca to fight with them. But suddenly what happens, Rey just escapes from there into a forest. She starts running and she just had a blaster gifted to her by Han Solo. And then what happens, suddenly other persons come who are from the Resistance, and they save to Finn and Han Solo and Chewbacca. But what happens, that suddenly where Rey was present just in the forest, then Kylo Ren comes there, and Kylo Ren comes to know that she has sent BB-8 somewhere. So Kylo Ren could easily grasp out the information out of Rey's mind using his Force abilities. He tries at first but was not able to do it. So he takes Rey to the First Order, all of the place where the First Order actually existed. Then what happens, he takes and arrests Rey there. Then even Finn came to know about it, that Rey has been gone to First Order, and even other persons came to know. So they wanted to make the Rey escape from right there. They wanted to save Rey. So they set on a mission that they will destroy all of the First Order and they will finally save Rey. But what happens, until that time Kylo Ren tried to get out of all the information about where the droid BB-8, the robot BB-8 has gone out of Rey's mind. But even Rey's Force abilities were not even less. That's why Anakin Skywalker's and Luke Skywalker's lightsaber called to Rey itself. So what happened, then Rey finally understood about the trick, and then Rey instantly said that you are afraid that you can never be as powerful as Darth Vader. And then Kylo Ren was afraid that she has understood about all of my abilities. So he was afraid that, and he goes then to talk to the Supreme Leader Snoke. And then Rey understands that there is something mysterious in Rey, even in Rey. So she has some special kinds of Force abilities. Then Rey tries some kinds of special abilities and tries to manage to get out of there. And then again she meets Finn, Han Solo and Chewbacca. Now Kylo Ren understands that Rey has escaped from here, but they were actually still on the same Star Destroyer right there. So what happens, that Han Solo then suddenly sees to Kylo Ren. They were able to escape. Actually Rey, Finn and BB-8 were on the other side, while Han Solo and Chewbacca was also on the other side. While Han Solo, when he was traveling, so he sees instantly Kylo Ren. Now Han Solo actually gets emotional because Kylo Ren was no one else but Han Solo's son. So Han Solo always wanted to bring Kylo Ren back to the light side, and Kylo Ren true name was not Kylo Ren. Instead, he was Ben Solo. But he later turned to the dark side of the Force along with Supreme Leader Snoke, and then he becomes Kylo Ren. So Han Solo instantly shouts out and he says, Ben. Now suddenly Ben Solo, meaning Kylo Ren, stops right there, and then Han Solo says that remove of that mask, because Kylo Ren was of course wearing a mask. That is traditional. Even his grandfather would wear a mask. Then what happened, that Kylo Ren asks to Han Solo that what would you get if I remove the mask? Then Han Solo replies that I would see the face of my son. So finally Ben removes of the mask and he throws it right there. Then Han Solo somehow motivates Kylo Ren to get out all of this and back to the light side of the Force and become a Jedi just like Luke Skywalker. And no one knew where was actually Luke Skywalker. Then what happened? Then Ben Solo even gets emotional himself and he somehow says that I've been torn apart. I just want to be free out of all this pain. I don't want to do all of this. And then Ben Solo again throws his mask and he gives his lightsaber to his father. But somehow as his father catched the lightsaber, there was still some bad in Kylo Ren. And suddenly there is very emotional scene, especially for me. I started just weeping and crying after I watched the scene that Ben Solo instantly kills his own father, who was Han Solo. Now this was very sad moment. So Chewbacca, who had been living for so long time with Han, he was very sad and he starts firing, and one of his fire was just gone into Kylo Ren's stomach right there. So what happens, that Rey and Finn again escape from there along with Chewbacca and BB-8. What happens next is that Kylo Ren instantly appears here. Actually, he was earlier to be called Ben Solo, but Snoke, Supreme Leader Snoke, changes his name, turns his name to Kylo Ren. Then when Rey and Finn meet to Kylo Ren, then Rey says, "You're a monster." Then Kylo Ren suddenly throws the Rey out of the field using his Force abilities, and the Rey falls unconscious right there. And then Finn was just alive still at the moment, so he takes Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, which was present with Rey, and he starts fighting to Kylo Ren. But since Finn had never caught a lightsaber before, he had never fought with a lightsaber, and Kylo Ren was really a master. He was very great in lightsaber duels and as well as with the Force abilities. Kylo Ren defeats Finn there in a very easy manner. And then the lightsaber falls there. Since the lightsaber was actually of Anakin Skywalker as well as his son Luke Skywalker, and Kylo Ren was actually relative of Luke Skywalker. Kylo Ren, meaning Ben Solo, was actually nephew of Luke Skywalker, but he still always wanted to kill Luke Skywalker. So he knew that he should be the next person to hold the lightsaber. He instantly raises his hands and uses his Force abilities and tries to take that lightsaber at a distance apart. So this is somewhat like electromagnetic force or gravitational force that is very large. So this is actually force simply as stated in its Star Wars series. Then as the lightsaber comes near him, it instantly starts going away from Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren was shocked after seeing the moment that the lightsaber comes in Rey's hand finally. So this was shocking, that the lightsaber actually belonged to Ben's family, Kylo Ren's family. So how did it go near Rey? So he was shocked first of all, and then he became angry. He was fired. Then he starts fighting with Rey, and Rey was holding Luke Skywalker's lightsaber and Kylo Ren his own lightsaber, which was made up of a broken crystal, so it would always radiate, fluctuate, right? Not you may say uniform, not uniform like other lightsabers. So what happens, that finally they start fighting, and initially Kylo Ren was just winning because he was really master of lightsaber duels. But then what happens, then Kylo Ren says to Rey that you are great in Force abilities, but still you need a teacher who will teach you about lightsabers, about lightsaber duels and about Force abilities. You need a teacher, I can teach you. Then Rey instantly thinks about Force, and then she fully is motivated then, and she starts fighting again to Kylo Ren, and this time it is really terrifying and it is shocking moment that Rey finally beats Kylo Ren, and the Kylo Ren will fall into the ground, who was so expert lightsaber duelist, who was trained under Luke Skywalker at first, and then as then as evil and as to the dark side of the Force by Supreme Leader Snoke. But still, Rey, who never held a lightsaber, wins to Kylo Ren there. And she was also somewhat shocked that how is it possible I won to Kylo Ren, but she didn't think even for a moment, and she finally escapes from there. And General Hux and all other teammates of the First Order then take to Kylo Ren and take him to Snoke, Supreme Leader Snoke, which scenes are shown just in the next movie of Star Wars Episode 8, that is The Last Jedi, and somehow Rey escapes from there. And since BB-8 was near them, so they get out all the information about where Luke Skywalker has gone, and when they find out the name of planet, and somehow Leia, who was actually the mother of Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren Leia was actually head of all the resistance. She was Princess Leia after all, but Kylo Ren was just against his own mother. He was to the First Order. So Leia sends to Rey near Luke Skywalker to be trained there. Even no one could understand why Leia sent just to Rey. Why couldn't Luke Skywalker be called here? So, but she sends Rey right there, and Luke Skywalker goes and meets to finally Rey goes and meets to Luke Skywalker there, and she gives Luke Skywalker his own lightsaber. But what scene is shown in just the next movie, in beginning of next movie, that Luke Skywalker at first takes the lightsaber and throws away. So that is just of the next movie, and the movie ends here. So you may see, this is true for every Star Wars movie, that it doesn't complete the story in one movie, so it always extends the story. Like you may see in episode 5, Luke Skywalker was lost to his father Darth Vader and somehow escaped from there, but the fight didn't end, so the story didn't end, the villain doesn't die there. Even in 4th episode, the villains are not dead, or the Sith Lords are not dead. So you may see in every movie, in any Star Wars movie, the story finally ends in episode 9. So we'll be maybe discussing about that any later. And that was all of my experience watching Star Wars episodes 7, The Force Awakens. That was just all for today, somewhat entertainment and fun, and thanks to always for watching this video. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.